Christine,
Uh-huh.
are you feeling cryptic?
Not yet, but I will be on August 13th because that is the date of our second annual, and that's why we drink, Cryptids Unscripted Poetry Slam and Charity Auction.
We seemed to get quite a lot of love after our first cryptid poetry slam that we were like, you know what? We did say it would become annual, so we walked ourselves right into that trap. But welcome to a second chance, and this time we have a special guest host. It is America's Hercene Shifter.
Oh, that's right. And stepping up live into the spotlight. The first
cryptid poetry slam hosted by a cryptid. What do you think about that?
I think we should be in some sort of Guinness Book of World Records. We have amazing posters designed by Sarah, who made our poster last year. She's so talented. We're selling a poster ticket combo as well, which is really exciting. And we're doing a Patreon presale. So all our patrons are going to be able to get tickets. And so we'll let you know when all of that goes on sale. But the event itself is Saturday, August 13th. Mm-hmm. I will be flying out to LA for this big event. So I'm very excited.
So we're going to be together. I will be sitting next to my very own cryptid. And just reminding everyone that last year it got oddly sensual with the Mothman poetry, and I encourage it again. So
and this year I'll be there in person. I can hold your hand in real life.
Okay, if you want to see me cringe a little bit, which I'm excited for, you can tune in again. That is August 3rd. And if you want to send in your cryptid poetry, please email it to atwwd@gmail.com.
We'll also be reading your personal cryptid experience stories. So if you have an experience where you maybe spotted a Bigfoot or had a sensual evening with Mothman, please send that to us. And we are doing an auction with small businesses as well, and listeners can have sent in products for that. Last year we had a wooden dildo, very exciting. Mm-hmm. And we want to let you know as well that all proceeds from the auction will be donated to reproductive justice efforts. We'll have more details on that soon as well. And to find out more and get your ticket, go to momenthouse.com/cryptidsunscripted.
That's momenthouse.com/cryptidsunscripted.
Oh boy, howdy.
Hi, Christine.
Hey, how are you?
I am good. I feel like both of us are in high spirits today.
What's that about?
I don't know, but you seem happy. I seem happy. I don't know if you are.
That's a key word.
How are you doing? What is your what's been going on? I haven't talked to you in a long time, it seems.
I know. We'll see. Here's the thing that happened is that there was a thunderstorm. We were supposed to record a couple days ago, and I frantically texted you from Blaze's phone, you and Eva, to let you know that I didn't have power and my phone wasn't working, and I was just sitting in the dark with my little lantern I bought off Amazon last year. And so we didn't get to record. So I do apologize for that. We just sat in the dark instead. So
it actually worked out very well for me.
Oh,
so,
good. Because the power came on later that night, and Blaze was like, maybe you should text Em and see like if they want to record right now. And I was like, no, I'm sure Em has already found better plans.
I did. You want to know what my better plans were?
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to tell you when we recorded last time, it was going to be the reason why I drank, but then we didn't record, so now I have to tell you after the fact. But I got to go to an early screening of Thor.
Okay, I saw this on Instagram and my feelings were so hurt because you didn't tell me about it. But then I was like, oh my God, Em was supposed to tell me this on the podcast, weren't they?
It was going to be why I drank that day.
What? Okay, now I need to know because holy crap.
It was.
I saw the cake pops.
That out of control. Like that was some Hoboken shit right there. You know
out
what I'm
saying? Of control.
That was some cake boss stuff. Okay, so how do I start? Also today, when we're recording this, is actual like opening day, release day. What is wrong with me? Why can't I remember how to say it? It comes out today. It comes out later tonight. And so I'm actually seeing it for a second time with other Christine.
Oh my gosh.
Later tonight, because I felt so bad because usually ever since like 20 15, she's been the person that I went to every Marvel movie with. And then I started dating Allison. And then Christine got a job where she
Oh.
traveled a lot. So it ended up working out that I had a new Marvel buddy because Christine was gone. But now all three of us go to see them together on opening night. So, but
now
I had
you go to early screenings and say,
I know, I
oh,
had
sorry, Christine, I've already seen this.
I had to confess. I was like, I've already seen it, but it's so good. It's so worth seeing a second time. And
How did you get to go to this early screening? How cool.
it was the same way I got into that Nicolas Cage
Nicolas
one.
Cage thing.
We have a
Nice.
very lovely very lovely PR people who their whole thing, I guess, is just finding events, and well, they've got other things going on too. But
I was like, I don't know about that, but
the one thing that's currently super fun in my world is that I had said, you know, I see a bunch of like TikTokers and stuff, and like, of course, they have platforms like way bigger than mine. They have like millions of followers, but they go to like Marvel events. Like, how do I get in on that? So I think I just told.
my favorite part is that they were like, oh, okay, sure, you can do that. And I was like, wait, what do I want to do? Now I need to come up with something.
Well, so I did say, I was like, anything Marvel, I don't care how lowbrow it is, I will do it. I will do it.
I will do it.
And this one just worked out very well. It wasn't like the big like Chinese theater screening or anything. It was someone on TikTok was doing a collab with like Box Lunch or something. So they had like this screening, and only a certain amount of people were able to come. So it was a very weird. I have no idea how the strings got pulled, but they got pulled, and I ended up getting to go.
Cool, Em.
I'm very, very lucky, and it was very fun. So I was curious how the food was going to be, because I was like, if this is a Marvel movie, I wonder what the budget is on like screening food, because obviously my first thought was the food, not the movie.
Obviously.
And I love a good theme, Christine. You know this.
I know this about you.
They delivered. It was at this movie theater, and they just had like a whole like floor of theaters like blocked out.
Cool.
And so they had roped off like the escalator and all that. So it was just
private screening.
It was like, yeah, I felt very out of place. Everyone was either way more dressed up than I was, or way underdressed compared to me. So I have no idea where I fit in the crowd. I feel like anytime I've never understood this California cool aesthetic.
It's California cool. I don't get it.
I don't get it either. It really is so vague that I guess it means you could wear whatever the fuck you want.
I think so.
But I need some structure. Like,
no,
what are we
too.
doing?
That
formal, not formal.
Out.
And so some people were in like 3-piece suits, and some people were just wearing Thor shirts. So I was like, I feel so out of place. And
you were wearing fish flops, so you really nailed it.
I told myself I was going to wear normal clothes, but with the Thor color palette, and that's what I went with.
That's precious. Love that for you and the theme.
So we wore dark red, and I wore some khakis or something, because that's like the secondary color of his outfit. So anyway, I'm getting really into unnecessary details, but the food was amazing. They had them all named. I stole one of the nameplates of the food.
They were like, we were going to put that in the trash. It's okay.
It was like they had like the wings of the 9 realms, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm taking that. And then they had a whole bunch of different cake pops. There was one that literally looked like Chris Hemsworth, and it was very weird and precious. So I ate a lot of those. They had themed drinks available. They had themed mocktails available.
Wow.
And it was the only time I've ever eaten like real adult food in a movie theater. Like they were like, oh, take the wings of the 9 realms with you to the theater. It was very fun.
That is so cool. And honestly, I just keep getting flashbacks to like us sitting in my tiny living room attached to the kitchen, attached to my bedroom, attached to the living room, attached to Los Angeles, and sitting there and just thinking like when you would say like, oh, I'm going to the new Marvel movie, and I was like, ooh, what's a Marvel movie? And now it's like, now I'm still like, what's a Marvel movie? But you get to go to private screenings with cake pops of one of the Hemsworths. That's so cool.
It was very, very fun.
I'm so proud of you. That makes me so
thank
happy.
You. I'm sorry I didn't tell you earlier, but I was like, man,
I
Christine.
saw the post and I was like, did I miss a text? Like, is Em mad at me or something? And then I was like, of course, I'm like, is Em mad at me? Like, okay.
Usually it's me about to tell you something, and then we end up not seeing each other.
And then I get mad, and it's like, why are you mad? I don't know.
I
'cause
hope you didn't ruin your own day with that, but
No, of course not. No. But I was like, I'm gonna need to either because I wasn't gonna text you about it because I was like, well, I can't just like text Em about this. I need to like hear it in person. So
Well,
that's very exciting. I'm very proud of you, and it looked like a lot of fun.
it was very fun, and they had like a whole stage there where you could like use props and take pictures and stuff. So anyway, it was a delight, and if that's the only Marvel event I ever get invited to, I can now wash my hands from it and say
What's
it's
wrong
been
with
done.
me? I'm getting like teary-eyed. I'm like just so proud of you. I don't know. It's just such a big deal.
Oh, I think I'm too excited to realize how sentimental it is, but it'll happen later after you've already gotten over it, and then I'll be like, why don't you care?
I'll be like, what's a Marvel movie? I don't know. It's just all very confusing.
But you just said the other thing that I was going to brag on for why I drank this week, which was I made a pit stop this weekend at your old apartment.
I know. And of course it was very sweet, but I was like, well, obviously Em's there because they're doing some weird themed anniversary scavenger hunt or some shit.
I hope you realize like there couldn't be anything more Em and Christine than like having incidentally thrown yourself into the narrative of my anniversary because
you threw your anniversary into my narrative. Let's put it that way. Okay,
fair enough. But
get your anniversary out of my narrative.
For Allison and I, every year, at least that we're in LA, we always make a little drive on over to your old apartment and take a picture at the
people who live there.
The corner
we
met on.
Who are these strange people? They show up every year.
Why do they always show up on July 4th? What is going on?
Did you? Blaze wanted to know if you went to House of Pies.
We went to Fred 62 instead.
Oh, I love Fred 62. Okay,
and we got shirts, sweatshirts, and hats from Fred 62.
Party time.
Well, I don't know if I've told you this part, but Fred 62 is where I actually I've had like the moment of like, oh, I love you. I had that with Allison at Fred 62. So I was like, in case this store ever shuts down, I need all the merch now.
So you are really throwing your anniversary into everybody's narrative.
Yeah, you get it.
Cool.
But I wish I had gone to House of Pies, but I was already full from the Fred 62.
I get it.
Anyway, that was two very big reasons why I drink this week, but now I want to hear why you drink this week, besides your thunderstorms in your broken house.
Yeah, while you were doing cool private screenings, I was changing diapers by lantern light. And before you...
Said Emily Dickinson or something.
before you got on the Zoom, I was telling Eve, I was like, I had these like little lanterns on our balcony for like at nighttime if you want to sit out there and just turn the little lantern on. And I was like, I'm never going to use these. And then the power went out and I was like, oh my God. So I went and got these little lanterns and I was walking around with them and it was so wild. But I was convinced that the ghosts were going to see me like holding a lantern and be like, back
You're one
in my
of us.
comfort zone and like show up in the dark. And of course, everything was like candlelight. So it was very spooky. So I was just like avoiding any sort of dark hallways because I was like, I'm going to see a Victorian lady at the end of this hallway with my little lantern.
I don't mean to sound all like Boy Scouty here with the always be prepared, but I will say as a lover of neon lights,
right,
and flashlights and anything that to make things glow, I have a weird amount of like flashlights ready to go if there's a power outage. Like we have a whole camping section which ironically we don't use very often, but we use it a lot if there's ever a power outage. We got so many lights ready to go.
Yeah. Blaze has all the flashlights and like emergency stuff. I started posting pictures to Instagram and he was like, you need to keep your phone battery charged. And so I was like, oh, right. So I just left the room and did it in there because I was like, I still want to post on Instagram.
Okay. I think the next time I give you like a big haul of gifts, I'm going to have like a preparedness bag for you.
Well, remember Eva gave me one of my favorite gifts of all time early on in our friendship, which was the earthquake emergency backpack, and I still have that. But I don't think I should utilize those types of tools for your ordinary power outage. I feel like.
But here's what I'm gonna do.
Yes,
what I'm gonna do though. Okay, it's gonna be packed full of fresh batteries and very bright like TikTok ad power flashlights, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And then there's also going to be a already charged external battery in there, and there's
the stuff
and fruit snacks, and it's going to be locked. And you are not allowed to know the code until the next time you have a power outage, because
Okay.
otherwise I know you're going to rip that thing apart and use every single thing for the wrong reason. And then when you need it all, it's going to be missing and or not charged.
And I'm going to go, I don't know where it went. And Blaze's going to be like, you ate it. I'm going to be like, no, I didn't. Yeah, that's true. The only thing is my phone, every time the power goes out, just doesn't work. And I wonder if it's like, Blaze said it was probably like everybody in the area was, because like 75,000 houses lost power. So we were wondering like maybe everybody's suddenly on the cell network and that's why it's not working. Anyway, so I couldn't even reach you.
Here's a new plan. Here's a new plan.
Okay,
new
tell
plan.
me.
Okay.
Do I have to do one of your escape rooms to get into this thing? Because I'm never going to survive.
I'm not, it won't totally be an escape room, but next time I go to your place, I will have all the stuff I just listed already ready to go. I'm going to hide it somewhere in your home.
Oh.
And then you just have to, I can't, since you can't text me to be like, what's the code? It'll be unlocked and ready to go, but you just have to find it now because
You know,
if you have access to it right away, if I just hand it to you, you
It's
will
not
open
gonna
it up
work.
and rip it apart. But it'll be a fun game in the dark anyway to just try to
and
find
you know what?
it.
As long as you put like some dangerous items like knives and power cords, Leona will find it and put it in her mouth. So if you put some
Okay,
like
got it.
staples and like some things that she's definitely not supposed to chew on, she will lead me directly to it. So I think that's a great idea.
I'll put a Bluetooth like squeaker in there and like
Then
when
Gio might find it.
and then I'll check the weather and whatever
Oh,
it
I
is.
see.
And then whenever I don't hear from you for too long, I'll
You
just like
just
press
got-
the squeaker on my
You
end on
just
my
gotta
phone.
follow the Duke Energy outage map, and anytime that like my little square is lit up, but it's like wild because we hadn't lost power ever living in this house, and then all of a sudden it's like cool, nothing works. And oh wait, there was one more thing I was gonna tell you. Oh yeah, before like the other reason I drink, which is a happy reason, is that I went for my birthday. Blaze got me tickets to see Death Cab for Cutie, and the concert was last
I
night.
saw
and it was
you.
so fun.
You brought your sister?
Yeah. So well, no. She.
Oh, it was on her story.
Yeah, she was there. Don't get me wrong. She was actually supposed to babysit. And then she was like, no, I'm going to the concert. And I was like, oh, that's a cool, fun change of pace. And she's like, no, Tim's go. So my stepdad came over to babysit. But I was like, cool, my babysitter just is like now joining me for this date night. But anyway, no, it was very fun. And like one of my brother's good friends and one of my friends was going, so we all went together as a little group and crashed each other's
Nice.
date nights. And then my sister showed up, so it was good. But I got this shirt, and it's actually of a band called the Illuminati Hotties, and they opened for Death Cab, and I was like, and they're like, we're from LA, and I was like, me too, but not really, but sort of.
So fun. Illuminati Hotties.
Yeah.
What a great name.
I know. I was like, damn. And then they walked out, and Liz and I were like, yeah, those are some Illuminati hotties. I just love it. I just love the name so much. And so I bought a shirt. But anyway, it was a great time, and somebody recognized me, and I, of course, couldn't really hear their name. So I was like, so hello to whoever you are. And sorry I hugged you. I had already had a couple beers. So
It's like, well, and I was gonna say, I haven't been recognized in a while, but I did finally get to be starstruck on my end at that Thor
Ooh,
thing because
yeah.
the TikToker that was having the collab is one of the people I follow on TikTok, and I guess to a point where even I've shown some of his videos to Allison because Allison noticed them and was like, "Oh yeah, I've seen their videos." So very sweet. And the last thing I'll say about Thor is so like one of Thor's like sidekick is like not the right word, but an additional superhero who's always in the Thor movies now. Her name is Valkyrie. It's Tessa Thompson. Do you know who that is?
No, but maybe I'm just so bad at.
Just trust me, you would have a crush on her. Like the
okay.
aesthetic is very.
I'm just gonna blindly believe you on that one.
Well,
The
so
aesthetic.
in the last, and I say you'd have a crush on her because fucking everyone does.
What's her name?
But Tessa Thompson. Type
Oh,
in
yeah.
Valkyrie
Oh,
and
I recognize her for sure.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So she was like very, very queer coded in the last movie.
Mhm.
And the last Thor movie was like her debut movie. And everyone was like, that's a queer person. Absolutely. And also people have also said that like Captain Marvel was very, very queer coded, which, you know, given her like probably lesbian lover in the movie it's very queer coded.
Check. Right.
But so everyone has been saying like, when do like Valkyrie and Captain Marvel like have a thing? And then Tessa Thompson and Brie Larson started like actively flirting on Twitter with each other. It became a whole thing. So everyone's like little gay brain broke. But so they heard our cries apparently that like Valkyrie should be queer. And in this movie, she's like canonically queer now. It's very nice.
I'm just so.
And there's a scene, like I'm not giving any spoiler away. It just was like a passing moment where like they just like had this big battle, and then like she goes up to one of the women and just like grabs her hand and like gives her like a kiss and gives her intense eye contact while giving like the kiss on her hand. I lost my goddamn mind. I was like, that was like, and it came right after a scene where we watched Chris Hemsworth and we saw like full his whole bottom, his whole tushy was out.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even notice that, but I did notice Tessa Thompson giving intense eye contact and kissing a girl on the hand, and I lost my stupid little mind. So I'm
see it again tonight.
Very excited for tonight. Very excited. That scene is all I'm going for. But whatever.
Oh my gosh, this is just so exciting. I don't know why, but I'm just like jazzed.
I'm jazzed. My heart thing almost started happening. I was just
take it down a notch.
I didn't mean to. Oh wow, Tessa Thompson's so smoking, and very glad that she's part of the Alphabet gang at this point. So
I love it.
Okay, so here's my story for you, because we've talked about Thor weirdly for like 20 minutes, and then also Death Cab for Cutie and the Illuminati Hottie. So what a triad!
There's a lot happening, and like also Victorian ghosts. So
can't forget them.
You can't forget.
Well, I don't know if it's not a surprise to you. It was a surprise to me because I didn't see this coming. But if you recall the last episode we recorded, I talked about the Tizzy Wizzy.
Oh, do I recall? I recall.
The little hedgehog cryptid who could, I suppose.
Who's my new love interest, yes.
Who's also canonically queer as far as I'm concerned.
Somewhere on the alphabet, and I just love him.
And so I just
That's actually what the T stands for. Sorry, M, but
is it Tizzy Wizzy?
Yeah,
I guess I'm a little Tizzy Wizzy.
Unknown fact, or a little known fact. Actually, it's unknown because it's only me who knows it.
Lesbian, gay, bi, Tizzy, and happy to fall under the Tizzy umbrella, if you will.
Yeah.
Well, so while I was researching Tizzy Wizzy, I only found a few links because there wasn't too much there. But Google did say, "I'm sorry, did you mean the Afonk?" What? And I went, okay.
Yes. Question mark?
Clicked around there, and as soon as I typed in Afonk, Google went, "I'm sorry, did you mean the Lavellin?"
What's going on? These are all also letters in LGBT. I'm like, we're just like adding the whole alphabet.
So apparently Afonk is asexual, Lavellin is lesbian, Tizzy Wizzy trans. Yeah. We're getting there. Well, I couldn't find a B or a G or a plus sign, but I did find. Okay, but between those two. Those were the two that kept coming up every time I typed in rodent cryptid and Tizzy Wizzy. And so I have a double feature for you today, which is
you do.
The Afonk and the Lavellin.
What on earth? I've never heard of either of these things.
Me either. I like when Google said, "I'm sorry, is this what you meant?" I was like, Google, I don't think you know what you meant.
I was going to say, Google sometimes knows us better than we know ourselves, but also,
like,
what?
These words don't make sense together, but okay. Or these letters don't. Okay, so I'm going to do my best to pronounce everything right, but one of them is Welsh and one of them is Scottish.
Oh boy.
And it's just, I tried my best. Even at one point tried to take like a phonetic crash course and like learn how to pronounce certain letters, but
oh boy.
Yeah, so sorry in advance to anyone who's Welsh or Scottish and just wants to rip their hair out. But we're going to start first with the Afonk, who is also known as the Adonk, a Dane, or a Bach. And it also, all of those are spelled in a multiple variety situation of ways. Like the Adonk was spelled like 4 different ways on its own. The Abak was its own thing. So really you could just say any A letter word and probably be on your way
just
to
like be somewhere near it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Afonk is from North Wales on the River Conway. And they are allegedly in this particular lake or pool, which is called. Okay, so if it has two L's, apparently that's like the sound.
Okay.
So instead of what I would have said is Lyn Yer Affonk, which means basically the Affonk Lake, but
Okay.
apparently it's Llyn Yer Affonk.
Holy crap.
So I'm glad I checked. And it translates to the Affonk Lake or the Affonk Pool, and it's named after the Affonk. So it must be, if people are guessing that's where the Affonk lives, and they named that whole place after the Affonk, I guess they're pretty certain about it.
Uh-huh.
The Affonk could also allegedly be in two different places, where instead of Llyn Affonk, it could be in Llyn Llion or Llyn Barfog. So those are the three main areas of water that it's suggested that the Affonk lives in.
Okay.
And it's basically like a Nessie type of water monster.
Ooh.
But instead of it looking like the Loch Ness Monster, where it's like a worm popping out every now and then, it is said to either look like a crocodile, a platypus, or a beaver.
Okay.
So again, wide range.
Yeah.
Some think it is also a demon.
Oh,
It's a lot of things.
didn't see that coming.
Shockingly, right?
Right? We should have. That would have been the first thing we usually think is coming, but
a cryptid and a demon. I don't think I've covered that since I did.
Oh.
So Affonk is actually also the local Welsh word now for beaver.
Wait,
So-
no way.
I don't know if it's the chicken or the egg situation. Like,
Oh,
did the
sure.
Affonk come first and get translated to beaver, or was beaver first and then Affonk? But either way, Affonk now means beaver in Welsh.
That's so weird.
The Affonk is known to attack anything or anyone in the water.
Oh.
So if you go jumping around in that lake, you might get attacked by the Affonk.
Don't is what I'll tell you.
Right, yeah.
Just simply don't.
It's apparently strong enough to, quote, break the banks of the pool, and it is said to be the reason for floods in the area.
Oh, okay.
And especially in this one lake that they think the Affonk lives in, which is named after him,
Yeah.
it's because that area of water happens to have a lot of whirlpools in it. And so they think that the Affonk is the cause of anything getting dragged under the water, but it could also just... a naturalistic explanation can just be this is a whirlpool. you know?
And that doesn't make any sense.
You're right. I don't know what I was talking about. It's also said that the Affonk is nearly impervious and nothing can pierce its flesh.
Oh, okay.
So can't be stabbed.
Scary.
And so here's one version of the story of the Affonk, or in this version, it was known as the Adonk. So this version is that I guess this was like a 17th century story to the Adonk. It's been around for a while, these folklores of him. And this particular story says that the Adonk lives in a palace, or he lives near a palace. He's not like the king.
He rules the nation under his iron fist. That can't be stabbed, by the way.
That can't be stabbed. He lives in a cave near a palace.
Okay.
This palace has a very interesting name. The Palace of the Sons of the King of the Tortures.
Ugh.
Apparently,
how do you spell tortures?
Like torture with an S.
Like torture, like to harm somebody, or like torch, like with a flame on it?
No. Not torches, tortures.
Oh, no. Okay, that's what I thought.
So he lives in a cave next to this palace with the crazy name.
Okay.
And so in this cave, the Adonk would every day kill the king's 3 sons, and then they'd be brought back to life, and he would kill them again the next day.
Okay.
So right off the bat, I don't know if I need to tell you this, but this is not a very realistic story, especially since the Adonk is at the center stage of it all.
You're right.
So the lore is that the king's sons would go to the cave every day to try to kill him, but they would always lose.
Okay.
And the king asks to go with his sons one day to fight the Adonk, but they say, no, you can't, because if you die, you can't be brought back to life like we can.
Well, that's not very nice. Okay.
Yeah, I guess they genetically got that from their mom. I don't know.
Yeah, that's not part from your side of the family, Dad.
So then the king goes on his own one day. He doesn't tell anyone. He just sneaks away and goes to see the Adonk for
God's
himself.
Sake. Okay.
A stubborn man, just like them all. And he, on his way to kill the creature, he meets the Queen of Constantinople.
Oh, yeah, that happens sometimes.
I bumped into her last week at Ralph's, but, you know.
You never know where she'll turn up.
So apparently she was in disguise as a fair maiden.
Oh, sure. Okay.
You know how she is with her dress up.
Classic.
And she said that...
Oh, by the way, that's what the Q is in LGBTQ.
Queen of Constantinople. You know, you were onto something with queen, to be queer. Not queer, clear. To be clear.
I'm saying, to be queer.
Okay, well... so she's dressed as a fair maiden, as all queens of Constantinople's are. You know that trope.
Classic.
And she basically tells the king, oh, you're not going to be able to fight the Adonk because he's invisible. And so
oh my God.
I like that she's just got like she was into cryptids of her time too.
Yeah, she's like trivia knowledge about this thing.
It's like if the king came over to you and said, I'm going to go fight Mothman, and you were like, let me get my binder.
Up. Yeah. Let me open our, and that's why we drink email account, because I have a lot of factoids for you.
Let me open up last year's Cryptid Poetry Slam, and I'll show you what you're missing out on.
He's very sensual, so be prepared for that. That's what I'll say.
You wouldn't see it coming, but you know, before he wraps you up in his fuzzy wings.
Disarms you, you know.
Okay, so she says, oh, Mr. King, you're not going to be able you're not going to be able to fight him because he's invisible. So this is going to be really tough for you. Good luck. Mm-hmm. And basically, for good luck, gives him this stone, an adder stone, Adder.
Oh, Isn't that a spider? Okay, it doesn't matter.
An acrid? Is it?
Oh. Adder. Oh, it's a snake. An adder snake. Look how scary this thing is. Look how freaky.
Forget it.
Yeah,
honestly.
Oh, like I see the creeps just looking at it.
I saw it from California, and I gotta be honest, I hated it.
An adder stone is a type of stone, usually glassy, with a naturally occurring hole through it.
Okay. Well, I just can't stop thinking about
it doesn't look much better than the snake, honestly. Like, it looks...
I beg to differ. I'd much rather hold that than the snake.
Fair point. Okay, fair point.
So she gives him this stone, which apparently will help him see the Adonk, even though it's invisible. Whoa. So it gives him the special power to see the Adonk. So then you're disarming the Adonk because he thinks, oh, I'm invisible. You're not going to find me.
Sneak up on you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the king goes up to him and finds him in the cave and kills him because he can see the beast. So he kills the Adonk, and later he goes back to his 3 sons and says, oh, you don't have to go to the cave anymore. I killed him. Like, I did your job for you, basically. And the sons let him know, because apparently they've been withholding this information the whole time, that he was always destined. He was the prophecy to kill the Adonk.
What? Why they keep... Okay.
I feel like that second half was the king at a bar trying to brag.
Just like adding to its like hyperbole a little bit.
I was meant for this.
Yeah. They said it. I didn't say it. They said it.
I was always meant to kill that beast. You ask him. So basically he was always destined to be the one to get rid of the town monster, I guess. And his story has often been compared to King Arthur and Excalibur.
Sure.
Interesting tie-in. One of the reasons why I said the Adonk or the Afonk is said to live in one of 3 areas. Mm-hmm. One of the areas, I guess it comes from this story, is Llyn Barfog. I'm probably nailing Llyn and not Barfog, but whatever. One of the reasons that location is on the list of places the Adonk might live is because at this area, there is a rock there called the Stone of Arthur's Horse.
Oh.
And in this rock, there's a hoof print etched into it, and it's allegedly a hoof print belonging to King Arthur's horse as he was like dragging the Adonk out to the lake.
Whoa.
Or pulling him out from the lake or something like that.
Whoa. What the hell?
And so I think they combined the stories of like
Sure.
the Adonk and this like Excalibur adjacent story. And then
Right.
King Arthur apparently himself is now involved with the Adonk in a
So
separate
is the
story.
horse?
Yeah, right.
That's a lot. A lot
The
of
horse sounds
characters.
like he did the most work.
Honestly, nobody gives credit to the horse.
So that's just another location that has been thrown in as like a suggestion of where the Adonk might live.
Wow.
Another version of the story. So the king's story is over. This is another popular version of the Adonk story. Is that in Conway Valley, where the Adonk is said to be, that area used to have devastating floods. It used to damage the crops, used to injure the cattle, and the townspeople said that the Adonk was responsible for floods. So they had to get rid of this monster, and then they wouldn't have this problem anymore. So they needed to take the Adonk out and bring him to another lake, which I don't understand. Wouldn't you just, in my like old-timey brain, wouldn't your first thought just be hunt and kill it? Like,
yeah, but I guess if it can't be pierced with anything, maybe they thought they couldn't. I don't know.
Uh-huh. That's a great point.
This is you and I arguing with our pitchforks. Like, well, what do we do with it? Let's put it in there. Like, don't tell them though. Like, put them in the neighbor's lake.
Tell them that their crops are in trouble.
Oopsie. It's
Sorry.
like so evil to move it to a different fucking lake.
I really am just thinking about us having a chat with our pitchforks. It's a good one.
Honestly, it reminds me of like anytime there's a spider or something, and I'm like, well, let's just carry him outside. You're like, kill it.
Do you remember that horrid green thing that was in your...
I'm so scared of it now, being in this room again.
Neither of us had pitchforks, but I certainly had a shoe ready to go, and you had just hopes and dreams that it would fly away unharmed.
To be fair, I did have that. I also had a big knife from the ice cream cake, so I feel like I was
because you're a Hawkeye and you would just bullseye the bug.
I don't know. Just if things went south, I was prepared.
If things went south and the bug got near you and you remembered to grab the knife, you would have been the most dangerous being to be in that room.
Neither of us would have walked out of there alive, I think, probably. So
just been stabbing the air.
Oops.
So, okay, so they have their pitchforks and they're like, what do we do? Oh yeah, let's move him over to the lake.
Got it.
To a different lake. And so the men decided, oh wait, I think this is actually oh no, never mind. I thought I was onto something, but my detective skills are not what I thought they were.
Nice try. We would be like relegated to the back of the fucking pitchfork squad. It'd be like, you guys wait here. You be lookout.
I thought you were gonna say I'd be delegated to the back of like a precinct because I like am clearly
also that.
Like not
in modern
I'm not
times.
Detective Benson.
No.
So they decide they're gonna take him to a different lake, and the men decide that they're all the blacksmiths in town are going to get together and create the strongest chains that they can wrap around the Adonk and pull him from their water and have their strongest oxen drag him by these chains to another lake.
There's a fucking giant bug next to me. I'm not making this
Christine.
up. And honestly, it's one of those giant mosquitoes, and I'm not about it. I don't like those. I don't like them.
I don't know where you stand, but I'm okay with murder in this case.
Somebody's going to clip that line and just.
I said in this case.
Oh, he's too high up. Okay, give me a second. Okay.
Did you get it?
I got him. Then I dropped him. Oh my God.
What's happening?
Okay, we're good. It's fine. Just don't worry about it. It's good.
Oh my God.
I'm fine. It's fine.
I liked your purple shorts.
Thank you so much. I just got them. I'm glad I was wearing pants. Sometimes I don't wear pants. So that would have been a fun sight. That would have been a Patreon exclusive.
There have been a few times I actively didn't wear pants to recording because I was like, oh, only the top of me is going to get seen. And then I panic that like that's going to be the day like the fire alarm goes off.
Yep. Always. Yeah. It's like the day that a giant mosquito arrives.
I have always at least worn underwear. Just Just to be
I
clear.
have 2. So if anybody's
We
scared
haven't
of
gone
that,
full commando
we're not
at any point.
there yet. I'm sure in a couple years we'll make it to that point of our podcast, but we're not there yet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We'll get there.
Anyway, sorry for the little tangent. You can go back to your story now.
That was your own battle with the Adonk. I feel like you had your Adderstone out. You're right.
I feel like
You were the prophecy. You were destined to
Honestly,
kill that bug.
You said it, okay? And I feel like someone should make a statue. Also, I took that a little far. I went one step too far, I think. I don't know. I think I did a pretty brave job, but that's just me. I don't know. I'm biased.
You were very brave. Very like the
Thank
like the
you.
Queen of Constantinople over there.
Oh my God. That's so nice of you to say. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, where were we? So they decide they're going to create very strong chains, and they're going to get their strongest ox, and they're going to drag the Adonk from one lake to the next.
Okay.
And to get him out, this was their plan. So this is us with our pitchforks again.
No.
Doing a breakdown of our plan. And so it's like, okay, we've got all the tools. We've got the oxen ready. We've got the chains ready. But how do we get the Adonk out of the water to put the chains on him?
Put the chains on.
So they get this one fair maiden, who is not the Queen of
A
Constantinople,
different
by the
fair
way.
maiden. Okay.
And actually, I think she was a farmer's daughter.
Of course she was. Sure.
And they had her just go stand by the water and just call for the Adonk. Because as
Just like flirt it out of the water.
literally one website said, like, just like any common man, the Adonk was weak to women or something.
Ew.
It was awful. So whatever.
Who wrote? Ew. Okay.
The queen who knows everything about him, I guess.
I guess so.
So the fair maiden calls out to him, and apparently he just only needed to hear his name once, came right out.
Here I am.
Then she started singing him a lullaby,
Sure.
and he fell asleep with his head in her lap, which
Well, that's really sweet.
that's very sweet and makes the rest of it very sad. But also, can you imagine being someone who's just standing by the water and you don't know the size or the temperament of this creature?
Mm-mm.
You have heard your whole life that this thing is pretty bad and causes floods and all this stuff, but you should go out there by yourself and call for him and let him crawl into your lap.
You're actually the bait, basically.
100%
Yeah.
you're the bait. So he falls asleep in her lap.
Aw.
While he's sleeping, the men who were hiding nearby lock him up in these chains and attach him to the oxen. And in the process of the Adonk getting dragged by the oxen, he wakes up from the movement and he freaks out and he crushes the maiden.
Oh,
Literally, because he was on her. So when he started freaking out, he
no.
killed her.
No.
He fights against the chains, and apparently the oxen are holding on for dear life to not get dragged in the water by this thing as it tries to run away.
Oh my God.
So now it's a real tug of war of like, are the oxen gonna drag him to the lake, or is the Adonk gonna drag the oxen into the water with him when he's
I feel
escaping?
like this happened in Oregon Trail at one point, like where the oxen had to pull the Adonk out of the water,
It had to
ford
pull-
the river.
It had to pull me all the way to California, or at the very least.
Just as difficult of a task. Yes.
Right. And so here's the thing though. So apparently the oxen were trying so hard and fighting so hard against the Adonk pulling on the chains. They strained so hard that one of the oxen's eyes popped out.
Oh, what?
And apparently the tears that came out of his eye socket allegedly created pool Hligad Yish, which means the pool of the oxen's eye. So
What
that's
the
this.
Fuck.
I like to think if we were tourists and went to go visit the pool of the ox's eye, we'd have to read that on a plaque somewhere. They're like, oh, these are the tears of an ox's eye socket.
Like, hold on a minute. We got to explain this story real quick. It's like,
Yeah.
wait, what?
So apparently and then with one eye, keeps chugging along, and eventually
Poor thing.
the oxen win and drag him into another lake and release the Adonk.
Only one eye casualty.
Only one eye, and then also dragging a monster with a missing eye. Ugh.
Ugh.
Clearly, he survived and was seen again later because when the men who were there tried bragging about
Hmm.
that experience, someone said like, oh, well, who was stronger? Were the men stronger or were the ox stronger for like dragging the
Mhm.
Adonk away? I again assume that maybe they're talking to the king from the previous
Oh
story.
my God, these guys, yeah.
And the king just bragged about how he was destined to kill the Adonk. And then these men were like, actually, we pulled him and we
actually
were
played
stronger than
tug-of-war
ox.
with
We were
him.
stronger than oxen.
Yeah.
Well, this is where I tell you that apparently the Adonk at one time in his life spoke to people.
Oh, sure. Okay. Wow.
Because as the men were bragging that
twist.
they were stronger than the oxen, I guess the Adonk just like sticks his head through the window and has something to say. Because when asked about it, the Adonk says, quote, the men, he says, had it not been for the oxen pulling, the Adonk had never left the pool. So he was saying like, no, the ox are stronger than you. The oxen are stronger than you,
Yeah.
not you.
No shit, everybody.
Anyway, apparently he speaks and comes in with the real hard hitters and likes to call people out. And he's like,
Love
no,
that.
men, you were not stronger than the
Nice
oxen.
try.
Anyway, that's the story of the Adonk. And
I'm just so wildly befuddled by this whole story.
thank you, because I was trying to read Old English to get through this and Old
Oh,
Welsh.
no.
So that's the Adonk. And then real quick, I am going to also tell you about the Llewellyn,
Okay.
which is a northern Scottish folklore. And it's also got several names, including the Lamalin, Labalin. Labalin, by the way, that's so interesting. Maybe that's why Google was like, did you mean Llewellyn? Did you mean a Fonk? Because for a Fonk, it had a bunch of different weird ways of spelling it. And one of them actually translated to beaver, which it said to look like. Llewellyn has a bunch of names, and one of them also is Scottish Gaelic for water shrew, which is what it said to look like.
Oh,
Huh.
wow. That's weird.
Yeah, and they're both technically kind of like rodent adjacent, like a beaver and a water shrew. Like they
Yeah.
kind of fall into some similar category.
Yeah.
So the Llewellyn is a rodent or shrew-like cryptid, which does sound very tizzy-wizzy.
It does.
Small but fast, furry, bright eyes, and lives in marshes and deep parts of the river, which the tizzy-wizzy was said to be rodent-like, small but fast, furry, bright eyes, and live in underwater because they like to
Underwater.
swim.
Right.
So I think the Llewellyn so far sounds more like the tizzy-wizzy versus the Afonk. But
He at least sounds like just as friendly and not as mean as this other one.
right, not just killing people in every story.
Like pulling eyes out and stuff.
So, one source though did call the Llewellyn a giant vampire shrew
Oh, okay.
because there are rumors that it is a bloodsucker with a venomous bite.
Oh, sure.
It's also known to be fatally poisonous from its toxic breath.
Okay, I spoke too soon about how friendly this thing was.
Well, I don't think this one actively kills anybody. I think it's like me in the morning. Its breath is so bad you kind of want to die, you know?
That I can relate to, yes.
If you're within,
Sleepovers
like-
with them. No, just kidding.
I do have stinky breath in the
You
morning. I don't know what
Everybody does.
I feel like mine is out of this world. I really, every morning I wake up and I go, "Whew, if I don't brush my teeth right now, I'm grossed out by myself." So, known to be fatally poisonous from their toxic breath. Apparently, their breath can injure livestock up to 100 feet away.
Oh my God.
It reminds me of that SpongeBob episode where he
Yeah.
thinks he's ugly, but he just stinks.
Yep.
And like the whole movie theater leaves.
I love that episode.
So the Llewellyn somewhere is just going, "I'm ugly and I'm proud," and he's just smelling like death.
He's just like the squonk. But
He
the
is.
squonk's not proud. He's just sad.
He's just lonely all the time.
Oh.
So if you were to interact with a Llewellyn and you're within 100 feet away at the very least, and this breath could get you, there are certain ways to cure yourself.
Okay.
And these were things that farmers allegedly did to their livestock to cure them if they were exposed.
Okay.
There's two ways. You first of all have to find, hunt, and kill a Llewellyn. So good luck.
Oh.
And boil its head.
Oh.
Boil it in water, and then have the livestock, or you, if you've been exposed, you have to drink the water that
Ew.
the boiled head has been in.
Don't do that.
The other thing is apparently in this folklore, a lot of farmers over the years would preserve the skin of a Llewellyn once they had found and hunted one.
Okay.
They would preserve the skin. They would boil that in the water, and then you'd have to drink the water.
Oh, God.
So
ew.
its head or just its skin in general is what you would have to boil in water and then drink it to cure yourself from its toxic breath that will kill you.
But then also poison yourself in the
Right.
process.
Yeah, like,
by drinking a
not-
dead animal.
FDA approved.
No, certainly not.
So that was kind of the whole thing, but here's reasons for why the Llewellyn lore even exists. Like, why did farmers think that Llewellyns were going after their livestock because of their
Yeah.
breath? Like, it really feels kind of like a ghost of like, oh, we can't see it, but it's killing our livestock.
Yeah.
So we think the Llewellyn lore, since it was also deadly and in the water, the two main reasons for why the Llewellyn lore exists is because parents at the time were trying to keep their kids from getting in water when they weren't
Okay.
around.
Smart.
And it would also explain random diseases of livestock that we didn't know about yet.
Mm-hmm.
So it would just keep people, and the other thing is it would just keep people away from water shrews in general, because apparently water shrews actually did have toxic saliva. So if they bit you, you actually could die
You're
from
kidding. Oh my gosh.
and so that the toxic saliva is probably where that
Yeah.
that idea of it having a venomous bite or having the fatal breath comes from.
Oh, geez.
In 1828, there was a book called The History of British Animals, and the Llewellyn were actually not just likely to be water shrews, but the closest current animal we know of is a stoat, which basically looks like a ferret.
Oh, okay.
They were, and apparently stoats at the time, which might have not been, people might not have known the name of a stoat. They probably just saw one and just said, oh, that's a Llewellyn. But it could have been a stoat because at the time, stoats, quote, exuded some kind of foul matter that was toxic to animals.
Oh.
So stoats could have actually been killing the livestock.
Oh my God. Okay. So there was really like basis in that part.
Yeah. So,
Interesting.
but interesting because that means people might have actually been hunting stoats and then drinking their
That
head water.
part. Yeah. Head what? Okay.
Gross.
Blah.
Well, fun fact, there was a shrew-like creature similar to the Llewellyn millions of years ago that was called, this is like the scientific name, Dinogalerix koenigswaldi.
Sure.
Dinogalerix translates to a terror shrew. And apparently these shrews, again, they were millions of years ago, but they are called the terror shrew because they really were giant-sized ancestors to today's hedgehog or today's moon rat, which sounds like why hedgehog and Tizzy Wizzy. When I typed in Tizzy Wizzy, Google was like, "Did you mean Llewellyn?"
So weird.
Yep. And so there used to be a giant-sized rat, which makes me think of the ROUSs from Princess Bride.
Yes.
The rats of unusual size.
Oh my gosh.
So, it cannot be confirmed, but I'd like to think that the rats of unusual size were inspired by Llewellyns or these giant
Yeah.
terror shrews. And what also might have been inspired by these giant terror shrews is the 1959 horror movie, The Killer Shrews, and the monsters were giant mutant shrews.
What? I've never even heard of that.
Well, here's a fun fact for you because I saved the link and I'd like you to go look at
Of
40
course.
seconds.
I would love nothing more.
So there was this horror movie, The Killer Shrews, in 1959. And because at the time, and even today, I don't know how you would train shrews and then also find them of massive size that they could act in a horror movie. The way that they did it back in 1959, the shrews were actually dogs with masks on their face.
No.
And so the dog actors would just
No.
run around and not even attack anybody. It was just, they clearly took video of like a dog running around in the yard.
Oh my God.
So I'm going to send you a link to it on YouTube. And if you go to 4 minutes and 20 seconds, I think there should be a scene of the dogs, or the shrews, running around and attacking in the woods where they're just running around and they're clearly dogs.
Oh my God. Oh God, it's a horrible sound.
I think that's probably it. The scenes were not that long.
Look at them running.
I'm telling you.
God.
And like, so by the way, those are, I sent you the link that was called 1959, like the killer shrews, all the shrew scenes. And in an hour long movie, there's 5 minutes of screen time with these shrews. Half of them were apparently, if there were any close-ups where you don't see its whole body, half of them were just hand puppets in the frame.
Yeah,
and
because
then
there was one where there was like a little hole in the fence and you just saw like teeth that were clearly just being manipulated by somebody.
And so those were hand puppets, and then the other half were dogs running around. And that means there's only 2.5 minutes of the shrews running around in this.
Can we talk about
movie.
how in the description it says spoilers? So, so don't watch it if you feel like you need to keep, the surprise, the suspense.
Spoilers,
intact.
the shrews show up. Yeah.
Yeah, spoilers. These are dogs, big dogs.
But so anyway, that was my fun fact for the day, that there was this. Also, because in the 1959, like a horror movie, really, all you had to do was see something that didn't look human and just call it
and
a
lot
monster.
Of screaming. Yeah.
I wonder whoever watched that in the 50s and actually lost sleep.
I wonder if anybody like had a fear of shrews
yeah,
after this film.
I can never see a shrew again. I'll lose my mind. Yeah.
I mean, not that they look anything like shrews, but
It literally looked like I don't know, like black labs with a mask.
Like Halloween costumes on.
Yeah. Anyway, that is the Afonk and the Llewellyn.
That was such a wild, twisty, turny, fun story.
It was funky. It was goofy.
It was definitely funky. And I feel like I got to hear you make some new sounds out of your mouth that I never heard.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from, but I loved it.
Thank you.
So I have a story for you today. And, last 2 episodes I covered the Girl Scout murders.
Yeah, those were rough.
Those were very rough. And this one, I just want to warn you, is rough too, but we'll get there. We'll get there. You know what? They're all rough. It's so hard for me to give a scale of like how bad any true crime story is. And it doesn't feel quite right. But this one's a little different. So you'll see why I don't want to spoil. Spoilers.
Not your everyday. It's not your everyday Llewellyn situation.
Not your, you know what? And what really is what I want to ask you.
Ask the queen. She'll know.
Ask the queen. Well, surprise. I've been the queen this whole time.
What
Didn't you always wonder why I looked like such a fair maiden?
Oh, I just chalked that up to good genes. I don't know.
Yeah, you just thought I was the farmer's daughter, but really, I was the queen this whole time.
Oh my God, I'm scared to ask what that makes me. Anyway,
I have no idea.
I'm that stupid spotted snake, I bet.
You pick another letter from that. Yeah, you could be the adder snake. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll stick with my
stupid snake.
I'll stick with my Tizzy Wizzy T. I'm happy there.
Okay. Yeah, you can stay the T. I'm right next to you there with the little Q.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you today that's the story of Lisa McVey. Have you heard about this before?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I had heard of it, and I knew bare bones details, but I did not know the whole story. And it is a roller coaster. Okay,
Okay.
This is maybe one of my favorite stories that I've covered. It's pretty. It's like a dark horse. Like I didn't see this coming, but it's a great one.
Okay. I think if you didn't see it coming, fucking none of us did.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Lisa McVey, let's get into it. She was born March 1967 in Tampa, Florida, and she goes through a freaking horrible, horrible time. So we're just going to start at the beginning. Lisa and her siblings suffered a childhood of physical abuse at the hands of their mother, who suffered from alcoholism and addiction and pretty frequently called Lisa unlovable. So good start.
Great.
Yeah. And that's just like the easiest part of this whole story. So yeah, it starts bad, but it just gets worse. So at age 14, Lisa went to live with her grandmother and grandmother's boyfriend, whose name was Morris. And Morris pretty quickly began molesting Lisa to the full knowledge of her grandmother.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Who kind of just condoned this.
And there's so many
It's
stories like that too.
it's very dark. And I want to also say there was a movie I watched on Discovery, of course, Discovery Plus, and it was called Believe Me: The Abduction of Lisa McVeigh. And it's really hard to watch because it's sort of a reenactment of the whole story. So it's
Mhm.
really hard to watch. And I will say at the beginning, I was like, this feels a little bit like Hallmarky, like really kind of. I think they do a pretty good job of covering this. So if you're interested in seeing it kind of act like, more visually, I would
Mhm.
check that out. But it's very tough to watch because basically she shows up at her grandma's house and her
Oh,
grandma's like, hey, there's just some things you have to do to like keep, to like earn your keep here, basically. Like it's
yeah.
really gross, really, really horrific. So, so often her grandmother watched, her grandmother knew about this, did nothing. And Lisa also suffered frequent beatings in the household. Her grandmother's boyfriend, Morris, pulled Lisa out of school and forced her to work and bring in money so he wouldn't have to. And so she started working at a local donut shop.
Okay.
And she loved her job. She actually called the donut shop her safe house,
Oh,
a
God.
place to get away from everything. So it's like work was her only place where she could feel like safe and herself.
Oh.
And just thinking like age 14, just the thought is just wild to me.
Mm.
Um, Lisa's sister Lori recalls in an interview once visiting Lisa and at bedtime finding a gun hidden under Lisa's pillow.
Oh, shit.
And Lisa had gotten this gun because she said, if Morris touches you, then I'm
Oh.
going to kill him.
And she
Uh,
said that to her grandma?
what's that? To her sister who was
To her
visiting.
sister. Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah. So her
Wow.
sister was visiting and was staying the
Got
night
it.
and was like, what the hell is this gun? And she was like, well, he does stuff. And if he does it to you, I'm going to kill him.
Okay. Got
Um,
it.
when she was 17, big yikes, Morris told her he wanted to have a baby with her.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yep, it's horrific. And feeling that she was trapped, she felt like damaged goods. That's a quote. She decided she did not want to live any longer. And so she, at age 17, wrote a suicide note and then worked a double shift at the donut shop. And she got on her bike and started to head home with this kind of feeling that she would be free really soon. And this is something that's actually common among people who are planning to attempt
Yeah.
suicide. This
Yeah.
feeling of like lightness or feeling this happiness that they'll have peace
Well,
soon.
maybe this is a good PSA then, because
Yep.
if you see something, say something. If you
Yep.
notice something, don't trust your gut, because it's apparently a common experience. So like if someone seems really depressed and uh really sad most of the time, then all of a sudden they're having a few really good days. And if you know that they've had history with ideation before,
Mm-hmm.
their like last few days are like particularly happy, but it's because they have maybe a plan or
Mm-hmm.
something like that.
They
So
see a way out, maybe.
yeah.
That's definitely that's a great PSA to have. And if you need more resources, you can go to the suicidepreventionlifeline.org
Hmm.
or call 1-800-273-8255. Just always a
Hmm.
good PSA to throw out there when we talk about this topic.
Yes.
So yes, thank you for saying that. So yes, she had this kind of sense of like lightness that she was finally escaping this horrid, hellish situation. She's on her way home, 2 a.m. This is like, I mean, talk about a Hallmark movie. Like, I just feel like the creators of who made the kind of reenactment film of this just like had no choice but to make it almost a Hallmark movie because the story is not Hallmark, Lifetime.
Oh,
Sorry.
Lifetime.
I keep saying Hallmark like it's a Christmas film.
They feel the same to me for some reason.
Yeah, they're both kind of that like cheesy, a little bit
Yeah.
corny. Yeah. So on her way home at 2 a.m., Lisa notices, this is November 3rd, 1984, notices that the street she was on was badly lit and there was a car stopped in the middle of a nearby church parking lot, which seemed odd. And this is the way she goes home regularly. So like she, again, like PSA, if your body is like something's off or wrong, trust your gut.
Listen to it. Yeah.
Yeah. So little did she know, lurking in the shadows was a serial killer.
What?
Yeah.
I was really stumbled upon. That's it's very interesting coincidence.
Outrageous. It's outrageous. Bobby Joe Long. Like, it sounds like it's made up, right? Because it's just like, what are the odds that this would happen, But it's true. So Bobby Joe Long, he had left behind a trail of bodies in Tampa leading up to that night, plus as many as 50 surviving female rape victims in Miami, Florida. So he was
my God.
at large right now. He was very active, very evil. And this guy, Bobby Joe Long, he had been born in 1953, and he had married his high school girlfriend in 1974, but divorced later. And it said that he developed a violent resentment and hatred toward women as part of this breakup. And as he moved through Tampa in the night, unsolved murder cases piled up. His MO was to target sex workers and other vulnerable young women whom he would lure into his car and then strangle elsewhere. So
it feels a little. Was that Bundy's move to drag them into the car, right? But he would get them in the trunk or something.
Yeah, he would do like, oh, my arm is broken. Can you help me carry this into my car? Can you help me with my groceries? Like that kind of like luring people who let their guard down.
Right.
Yeah, and so he did something similar. He lured people into his car basically by, asking for whatever. If he was going to a street corner and meeting up with sex workers, he would be like, somebody come into my car. And then the person who got in the car ended up being one of his victims. Very scary. And the authorities were trying to like nail this guy down, but they could only link the crimes by the red carpet fibers they found on every victim, which they assumed to be from the interior of the car. So that was like the only thread they could find. Pun not intended there. The only thread between all the cases. And there was no DNA evidence at the time that they could track. So investigators had very little to go on. And the DNA method used in crime investigations, and we've talked about this before, but was discovered in 1984, the same year as Lisa's abduction, actually. So this year that the story takes place, they did, discover how to track DNA, trace DNA. But as we've talked about before, with the age-old forensic files, this method didn't become like popularized or like used regularly for a few years. So at first, bodies were showing up every 4 to 6 weeks, but then escalated to every 7 to 10 days. He would have another victim. And an investigator said it's a sign of personal deterioration when serial killers move this way. Quote, they increase their killings as their lives begin to fall apart.
Oh, that's for some reason that I don't know why that shocks me, because I feel like that makes sense. So like, if you've got to like I feel like serial killers, I don't know, but I would imagine that like if you're someone who's okay with hurting someone, it would happen more often when you need an outlet, right?
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah. I think it does make sense. An outlet or a way to like feel, not to be like pretending I'm a psychiatrist or something, but like a way to feel control over a situation. Like if you're unraveling and then you like,
Yeah. I mean, it's the first time I'm hearing it that way. And for some reason it surprises me, but it really does make a lot of sense.
It makes total sense. Yeah. And I don't think I've ever heard it put that way either, but that's a really interesting, I don't know, assessment. So with no leads, investigators extended their search to Miami, where they looked into a series of unsolved rape cases. Like I said, as many as 50 unsolved rape cases from this guy alone. In Miami, Long would respond to classified ads, so like furniture sales, that kind of thing, and ask whether anyone, has Ted Bundy written all over it, ask whether anyone else would be home to help him load up the furniture.
Whoa. Yeah.
And sometimes women would say, sorry, no, there's nobody here to help you do that. And so now he would know that the victim was home alone. and didn't have a man around. And so he would gain entry to the house, say, oh, that's fine, I'll come pick it up anyway. Then rape the person, rob them. And investigators would compare the clothes of the rape victims to the bodies of the Tampa murder victims. And that's when they noticed this red carpet fiber
Damn.
matching to
And
both.
You know what's wild is like, what if getting out of Florida, that's where he left, right? He got out of Florida. And all of a sudden this was happening somewhere else?
No. So it started, or the rapes were in Miami, and then Tampa was where the murders were taking place.
I gotcha. At any point he could have just gotten a new car and they would have lost their one
Isn't that
lifeline.
Freaky?
Like all he had to do was just do all of this stuff in different cars and they would have never been traced to each other.
That's so true. That reminds me of the Night Stalker episode where like every little thing just went the wrong way for investigators, where like he would just happen to switch up his car or his appointment at the dentist or whatever it may be.
Kept them guessing in a really, really insidious way.
Yes. So this is how they were kind of connecting all these cases with the through line of Miami to Tampa, the rape, the murder. And so evidence was finally coming together, but they still had no leads until Lisa. So as she biked down that road and felt like something was off, Long yanked Lisa off her bike, put a gun to her left temple, and she screamed but was told if she didn't stop, she'd be killed. He dragged her back to his car, where she also saw a large hunting knife inside, and he forced her to strip down and said to show him a good time. Yeah.
Oh, my God. Okay.
Yeah. This girl just cannot get a break. And he said if he liked it, he'd let her go.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's sick.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Lisa remembers thinking, God, just don't let him kill me. Just fucking terrifying. She said, I had a new sense of wanting to survive. I had to reach down deep in my soul. I would do whatever it took to survive. Basically, she was no longer a teenager willing to die. She was planning to fight for her life.
Wow. I feel like I know that's not the case for everybody, but there have been a lot of stories of people who, if they've survived in a way where they had jumped off of something,
sure.
A lot of them have reported back that after they had jumped, part of them was thinking, I didn't want that.
Wow. That's a frightening thought.
I can't. And I know that's not the case for everybody. And I know there's a
lot
of people
of
have
nuance and
a lot of nuance,
of course.
But I have heard that before of people like
of survivors who say that, right?
Survivors like with an intent or with a plan, and something gets in the way, or they're in the middle of it and then realize, oh, never mind. And interesting that I've never actually heard one of your stories bring that up. So it's just interesting.
No, I feel like this does touch on a lot of things that don't usually come up, which is really interesting. And like, I mean, again, just like the Lifetime movie aspect of like, oh, I'm planning to take my own life and then like getting abducted that night. Like, it's just so wild. So, well, it just gets worse before it gets better. But he bound Lisa's wrists and ankles and blindfolded her. And as he put the blindfold on, Lisa purposefully tensed her jaw as tight as she could so that when she relaxed, the blindfold would be a little bit loose on her face.
Smart girl.
So smart. And so she would be able to see just a little crack out of her blindfold. So on the road, Lisa kept track of everything possible. She had a slight view from her loose blindfold, so she counted red lights. She saw the word Magnum labeled on the dashboard of the car. She paid attention to smells and sounds. She could tell that the car needed an oil change by the way it rattled. She even mentally noted right and left turns, trying to figure out where she was being taken.
Wow.
Just like very brave.
So brave and so smart. And like, I say smart without trying to insult other people who wouldn't be able to.
No, of course, right.
I'm thinking if it were me, I would be in such a freeze mode. I wouldn't even think about that.
It's hard to imagine that that anybody would be able to, have the wherewithal to like
Yeah.
count
I'm
left
just
turns.
I'm just impressed that she even thought, because I would have absolutely gone into like blank mode.
Freeze. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So
No,
just wow.
same here. And so once they stopped, he had Lisa get dressed. He led her up a flight of stairs, and she counted the number of stairs that
What? So
I
fucking smart.
know. And so once inside his apartment, Lisa noticed it smelled very new with a fresh coat of paint. And inside, this is again disturbing, he put Lisa in the shower and bathed her like he was playing out a romantic love affair. That's a quote.
Oh God.
And afterward, he became abrasive and demanding. Lisa remembers, my abductor, something triggered him to be brutal and attack me. And I kept thinking, I gotta get out of this some way, somehow. I have to get out of this.
What a badass.
According to Investigation Discovery Report, Lisa had a tragic skill set gained from her lifelong abuse. So you can kind of see that connection there. As far as she was able to dissociate from her body and appear calm when obviously she wasn't. And she said, quote, I had to take all the abuse I had incurred when I was a child and just reach, this makes me want to cry, and just reach down one more time into the pit of my stomach and tap into those survival skills.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And so that's what she did. And throughout the night, as Long repeatedly violated, assaulted, and tormented her, Lisa focused on figuring him out in order to appease him. So she recognized her other abusers' behavior in his behavior, and she knew kind of how to placate him, and she knew she had to remain collected, or he would get upset and kill her. And so she didn't want to freak out and like scare him into harming her. And so she later said in an interview, I figure I've been sexually abused for 3 years. What's one more time? But I'm also thinking, if I make it out of this alive, I will never let anyone do this to me again.
Wow.
I mean, wow.
I
I've
no
chills.
comment. No
Yeah.
comment.
Lisa also gave him a false name. She said her name was Carol, and she told him this story that she had a sick father at home who depended on her as his sole living relative and caretaker. It's not true, but this is what she told him. So she's trying to basically like
Get out.
yes, get out for sure, but like also kind of relate to his like maybe empathetic side or find out if there's a way to like connect with him. And so she told Long her father wouldn't survive without her. She needed to go give him his medicine. And so she was just trying this angle basically. Eventually, Long ordered Lisa to get some rest, and she noticed that she was put on his bed, which was a water bed. So another thing to note. And later, Long had the TV on, and she heard a news report about a 17-year-old being abducted off her bike. So that
Whoa.
was her.
Wow.
So I think this is the moment where, for her, it all started to feel real. So she burst into tears for the first time. And kind of like she suspected, Long became agitated and said if she didn't calm down, he would be, quote, forced to kill her.
God.
So smart cookie, once again, Lisa noticed the phrasing of this and realized he said he'd be forced to kill her, which implied like maybe he didn't want to. Like this wasn't necessarily something he was looking forward to.
Right.
And so she thought, okay, there's a chance he doesn't want to do this. And so according to a psychologist regarding the case, sometimes serial killers suddenly want to be nice. Something inside them clicks and they kind of become like caretakers, not in a real way, but in like their mind. They see themselves.
Their version of it.
Yeah, exactly. They see themselves as like a merciful caretaker. So Lisa doubled down on appealing to his emotions. She calmed down. She talked about her father. And she, at one point, convinced Long to let her go to the bathroom alone with the door shut, basically showing him how to treat her like a person. And in the bathroom, I mean, this freaking girl, I've like chills again. She secretly wiped her hands everywhere she could to leave fingerprints.
So fucking smart.
I know. I was like, damn. So she put her fingers on the mirror, the walls, under the toilet seat so that it wouldn't be cleaned, like a place where like he probably wouldn't, think to wipe off.
Yeah.
She wanted to tell police she had been there. And at least in the movie, she made the point of, even if I didn't make it out, I was hoping that like I'd be the last victim and they would find these
Yeah.
fingerprints, and at least he would not be able to do this to anyone else. So even more badass, she tossed her hair clip with hair on it under the bed to a point where like he wouldn't be able to notice it, with the
Right.
hopes that, you know, she could tell police later, like, check for my hair clip there.
Yeah.
And at one point, Long had Lisa touch and feel his face as like this like sick sort of intimate moment. Like,
Okay.
ugh. But Lisa used the opportunity to kind of try and memorize his features because she couldn't really see him because of the blindfold. So
Mhm.
she noted that he had small ears, was clean, with a short mustache, and had like pockmarks, like acne scars.
Mhm.
And eventually Long asked her, "What am I going to do with you now?" And acting along, Lisa told him she knew he was a nice person. He never meant to hurt her. She said she promised to never tell anyone how they met, and she could actually be his girlfriend and take care of him. Uh,
Ooh.
yeah. And
Wow.
Long said he couldn't, quote, keep her, and put Lisa back in his car. And she was sure she was on her way to be killed. They stopped at an ATM and a gas station, and he told her, "If you try to run, I'm going to kill the clerk inside the gas station." So she stayed in the car to protect the clerk at the gas station, because she believed he would do it, and he probably would have. And so she still has this blindfold on. So she knows that they are getting on the interstate because of the sound of the wind and the rattling of the car. So even though she's like preparing to be killed, she's still like noting every detail of where they're going. He took her out in the rear parking lot of an eyeglass store, and he told her, "I want you to stay there for 5 minutes." And he also said, "Tell your father he's the reason I didn't kill you." And then he drove away and left her in the parking lot.
Whoa.
Right? Like,
Whoa.
what the fuck? What the fuck? So, afraid this was some sort of test, because she's still blindfolded. Like, of course you would be still
Yeah,
petrified. That he
Probably
was-
stood there for an hour.
Yeah, she stood there for a long time. I don't know how long, but she stayed there, quote, like a good girl, according to her. And eventually she started to feel like a sitting duck waiting to be hunted. That's another quote. And so she started running.
Mm.
She ran until she couldn't anymore, afraid that like he would change his mind and come back to try and find her and kill her. And so when she finally got home, of course, her fucking nightmare is not over, because Morris opens the door and immediately is like, "Where the fuck have you been?" Began beating her, interrogating her, demanding to know why she was cheating on him.
Oh my God. And like has no idea what he's like, how particularly triggering that is in this moment, right?
Well, she's saying, "I've been abducted," and they're like, "Bullshit, you
Oh
were
my
out."
God.
You know what I mean?
So
Like,
they knew what they were doing and
they
still saying
absolutely
that
don't
shit.
believe her. They absolutely
Oh
don't
my
believe her.
God.
They think she's been out with like some quote boy. And that's why the movie version is called Believe Me, because she's like, "Why won't anyone believe me?" And
Oh
I
my
think that might be
God.
like the hardest part for me watching this, is just like when the people are like, "Oh, okay, likely story," and it's like,
Oh,
how just infuriating and like demoralizing could that be, that you survived this horrible thing and then like nobody fucking believes you? It's horrible. It's hard to watch. So her grandmother calls the police station to cancel the missing persons report. And they were like, "Oh, I'm glad she's home safe." And, you know, like with this kind of trope of like runaway teens from troubled homes. And of course, they're like, "Oh, yeah, she just ran away and she's home now." And they're like, "Okay, so she seems fine." And the grandma says on the phone, "Oh, she's making up some stupid story about being kidnapped." And the police are like, "Well, if she's saying that, then we have to talk to her, because like, if she's making these claims as a minor, then we have to talk to her." And she's like, "What? No, you don't need to talk to her." And they're like, "We have to talk to her." So the grandmother makes me so mad. It's like, how could you, whatever. Okay. At the station, a female detective questioned Lisa very dismissively, like didn't believe her story.
also, okay, gross, especially that it's a woman.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I don't know how
Wow.
much of the movie version is, you know, dramatized, but they're just watching that conversation where they're like, "We're all girls here. You can tell us what you were really doing, what you were really up to. Like,
Oh my
were you seeing
God.
a boy?" And, you know, it's like,
Ugh.
it's very infuriating to watch. And she said Lisa was just too calm to be telling the truth about such a horrible story. And Lisa remembers...
No one's ever heard of fucking trauma before?
I guess
What?
not. And Lisa remembers hearing investigators outside the door laughing. So that's the worst thing ever.
I would just get up and leave at that point. I'd be like, I'm clearly not being taken seriously.
It's horrible. And so she told them to bring in someone more intelligent.
Good.
And then she shut down. She said she was calm when she was telling her story because she knew she had to catch Long. And it's like the same thing she was doing when she was under, his abduction, like trying to remain calm to like control the situation and not, lose control. And so, she said about his other victims who didn't escape and who had been killed, she said, I'm their voice now. So she was like, this is my job. I need to do this. This isn't like, I don't have the space to freak out and have an emotional breakdown right now.
What a fucking woman. Oh my God.
I know. It's unbelievable. So a new detective who specialized in sex crimes arrived and showed Lisa a photo of his daughter and said, hey, I have a daughter, around your age. There's nothing I wouldn't do to protect her. And now I'm going to do the same for you. Like to be like, I want you to trust me. So finally she broke down. She started crying. She finally felt like somebody was listening. And she actually said she felt like someone cared for not just like for the first time in this police station, but for the first time in her life.
And so sad.
I know it's
especially a man
horrible.
to be the one to listen and not I'm not trying to be that person, but one would assume you can feel safer to have these discussions and be believed by a woman, or at least you should be like, at least like you have that bond. But like for the woman to basically laugh at you and for the man to be like, you can trust me when she's never been able to trust a man.
Yeah.
Like what a weird dynamic.
I know. It's very interesting. And I think there's an element to it of like just a father figure because, he's like, I have a daughter, you're around your age. And like, I want to take care of her and I'm going to take care of you. And like, thankfully he actually meant it. This wasn't like, another trap or anything like that. And so she started.
Oh, I was going to say, it's just very unexpected.
Yeah, it is. It's disturbing because you think once you get to the police station with your story and you're like, hey, I've been abducted. Like, at the very least, they'll believe you, but nope. And so she starts crying. She finally feels like someone's listening and caring for her. She tells the detective everything she knew, and he was astounded, like we were, by her recall. And it was clear Lisa was after this guy, and he could tell she wanted revenge, as she should. And so he was like, we're going to take this a step further. And in the movie, there's a while, and I don't know, again, how much of this is dramatized or real, but there's a while where they don't make the connection that her abductor is this same guy that they're hunting. So they're hunting the serial killer on the side, but like he doesn't leave his victims alive. So there's not that connection made until later when he goes, wait a second, there's a possibility these could be the same guy. And everyone's like, well, no, because he kills his victims. And he's like, I know, but this might be just the one that got away.
Especially if she's telling him, like, the guy even said he wanted to kill me. But so there's that. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So there was no doubt in this guy's mind that like there was a connection there. And so what he did was he sent her clothes to DC to be analyzed, and forensics found the same red carpet fibers on her clothes as the other victims. And he thought, bingo, this is the same person. So desperate to catch this guy, 50 investigators all went out in one night, searching everywhere they could. They decided to patrol the red light district and speak to some women there. And along came Long in his car, which Lisa had described so vividly, and even his face matched the description she'd given just from feeling his face. She'd never actually seen it.
Right.
And so they tailed him home and surveyed his apartment for 72 hours while obtaining warrants and gathering evidence. And eventually they were able to arrest him at a Tampa movie theater.
Wow.
Yeah. So in the investigation, In the interrogation, Long struck detectives as the, quote, typical Southern gentleman. Ew.
Yeah, forget it.
Like, he's clearly playing some, like, trope to try and win people over. And he seemed to know that he was, like, pretty much nailed down for Lisa's abduction, but he didn't realize at the time that they had already connected him to all the other killings and rapes.
Really?
So he thought, like, oh, this is just about Lisa. And so he was trying to, like, play up, like, oh, you know, it's just a one-time thing. But he didn't realize at the time they had him connected to all of these other crimes. So in an interview, Long smiled as if pleased with himself and said of his killings, quote, "It was like A, B, C, D. I'd pull over, they'd get in, I'd drive a little ways, stop, pull a knife, a gun, whatever, tie him up, take him out, and that would be it," end quote.
Ew.
Yeah, like he's a sick, sick, sick fuck. As far as Lisa's case, he sounded pragmatic and almost amused, which is so gross. And he said, "It was pretty easy to tell from the very minute that I grabbed Lisa that she wasn't like the others. And that's probably the reason she's still alive, walking and talking today. And I understand that she'd love to see me in the electric chair, and I can't blame her." Oh my God.
Oh my
What a
God.
fucker.
Oh my God.
So on September 24th, 1985, Long pled guilty to 8 murders and Lisa's abduction and rape. He is suspected of many more rapes and killings.
Yeah.
Bobby Joe Long was executed by lethal injection on May 29th, 2019, so quite recently. And Lisa, who was present at the execution,
Wow.
said the following words. Let me hope that I can get through this. Okay. "Bobby Joe Long, hear me loud and clear. Hear my roaring voice. May God have mercy on your soul. Long overdue." And then she broke down into tears and thanked him, saying, "The reason why I say thank you now is that I have forgiven you for what you have done to me. Had I not forgiven you, I might as well be in my own prison without walls."
Whoa.
Oh, chills. Oh my gosh. Bizarrely, there was a group of about a dozen protesters at Long's execution, but it was bizarre because they weren't protesting the death penalty. As you know, at these cases, there are people, understandably, who are there to say, like, you know,
Yeah.
no death penalty, which I understand. But they were defending him as an individual and saying, like, he didn't do it or he's innocent.
I wonder if it was that mental that episode you did about, like, people, like, do you think he had fans is what I'm trying to get to?
You know, I don't know. That's a great point, because I mean, he was in prison long enough to probably develop some sort of relationships with people, because he wasn't executed until 2019 and he went to prison in 1985. So yeah, maybe he had, like, that's a great point. Maybe he had, like, made connections with people outside who were on his side or thought he could be, you know, redeemed in some way.
Right.
Wild. So anyway, there are these people protesting, and Long's daughter was actually present, and she was holding vigil, and Long's attorney said, "He was a loving father up until today, and his family has been here to support him. They're devastated by this." Which I feel like, of course you're devastated. Of course you're devastated. I don't blame you for being devastated, but also, like, he was a loving father?
Yeah. When?
When?
Like, in the middle of killing everyone?
Yeah, yikes. Like, I mean, I listen, I don't know what it's like, and I don't know how you would be able to reconcile your father finding out he did stuff like this. So, you know, I guess I just don't know what that experience is like, but
Sure.
he didn't seem like a very loving person from my perspective. Let's just put it that way.
Right.
So the sister of another victim, her name was Tammy Caspi, knew Long's ex-wife and said, "She asked me to tell everybody that she's very sorry for everybody's losses. Obviously, she has no part of that. She is a victim as well." After Lisa's harrowing escape, detectives contacted her grandmother for permission to get Lisa into trauma counseling. And of course, Morris picked up the phone and was like, "No, you can't put her in counseling."
My God.
And so in the movie version of this, the detective talks to her and says, like, "Your dad said he doesn't want to, like, approve this and she just like breaks down and she's like, he's not my dad.
Mm.
And he finds this like obviously very odd, and like again he works in sex crimes, so I'm sure he has some sort of sense. But so he presses her further and is like, what's going on at home? And this is when she kind of breaks down and is like, I need to tell you what my home life is like.
Yeah.
So thankfully Morris is arrested. Lisa did feel that her grandmother should have been held equally accountable, as do
Yeah.
I. Yeah.
Me too.
Lisa ended up living in a runaway center and then moving in with relatives who treated her well. And she said, they were the only people who ever showed me love. And after that, there was no holding me back. And it's like, it's just such a tragic story I mean, you know, obviously it's very redeeming, but also it's just sad that like all she needed was just safety and love. And like so
Yeah.
many kids don't get that, the bare minimum, you know? It's obviously much bigger than that, but you know, it's just scary. So she eventually married and she had a daughter of her own. She ended up getting a divorce, but she worked for Parks and Recreation. And at one point, she called in an office break-in, and officers commented on how calm and in charge she was, how her demeanor was like just very, she's a good leader in that way under crisis. And so after this event, she ultimately became a police officer who specialized in sex and child abuse cases.
Wow.
I know.
This really, I see now what you meant by like from beginning to end, this feels like written.
Yes,
like,
it feels scripted almost because it's just so bonkers.
Yeah.
So I
Wow.
don't think the people who made the movie really had a choice because like they weren't even making up the story. It was just like, this
Like,
is what happened.
What a full circle.
Yes. What a redemption, you know?
Yeah.
And she also, this was very touching to me, she became a school resource officer where she shares her story as a motivational speaker, aiming to teach children to notice danger and self-advocate, which is just the coolest thing. And she said in a more recent interview, I've been in the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office for 17 years and a school resource officer for 7 years. I'm at a middle school now. They know I'm Mama Bear. Nobody messes with my kids, and my kids know that.
Oh.
I know. So Lisa Noland, formerly McVeigh, now Lisa Noland, also says, I know not on my watch will I let any child get hurt. And if they do, I'm going to be their voice and I'm going to be their advocate.
Wow.
And I know. It's honestly, it's just one of those stories where you're like, people like this, I think, were put on the planet to just really change people's lives and like make a difference.
She needs a hug. She deserves like 1,000 hugs a day.
She deserves just all happiness and light and love. According to Lisa's sister, Lisa is happy and vibrant. She sticks up for herself and she sticks up for other women. And recalling the fateful night of her escape, Lisa said in another interview, when he released me and drove off, I took off my blindfold and saw this amazing oak tree. I had wanted to die before, and now I wanted to live. I got a second chance at life.
Whoa.
So Lisa has a daughter and a granddaughter, which is really powerful. At the end of yet another interview, she smiles, proud of her role as provider and protector for other women and children, and she says, life's good.
Oh.
Yeah. And you know, watching the movie version of this, they actually have Lisa at the end. They do like a little like Lisa McVeigh became a, you know, officer in sex crimes and blah blah blah, and they have her standing there, which is really really cool just to like see that she basically approved this message of this movie being made, because I'm like, I wanted to make sure this is something that like was telling her story well, you know, and so it was cool to see that she was like clearly involved. But they have the scene where she's under this oak tree and she takes the blindfold off, and like they also show her, you know, they put her in the car and they say like and she says, you know, there's 3 red lights, turn left here. You know, she's able to kind of remember all those details of like, there were 22 steps. The carpet was this color. In the bathroom, she said like there were shoes that had like a little kangaroo on them. Like she just noticed all these little details. That was how they were able to nail this fucking bastard who had like dozens of more than that. So many victims under his belt already. And she was able to bring him to justice. So it's just a really powerful story.
I don't think I've, not just in your stories, I think I don't think I've ever been so impressed with somebody.
No, true. And I think I wanted to bring a redemption story this week after, some of the horrible stuff we've talked about. Obviously, still very horrible, but
still horrible, but at least there's a win at the end.
A silver lining. Yeah, exactly. And just, at the end too, they had little updates and it said, at the end of the movie, it said she is still close with the officer who believed her. I know that.
That part got me. That's good.
That really was just very validating and like happy. And then, she works in this, helping victims like her. And guess what? I bet you she believes people. I bet she believes their stories.
I bet she believes people. That's a great way to end it. I bet she believes people.
So that is the story.
Well done, Christine.
Well, thank you. And it's so wild. Like it's just the things it touched on, like the PSA about just like suicidal ideation and like that kind of stuff. And it went from that to an abduction to like trust your gut
and being aware of everything around you if you can.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then believing people and then
believing a story and like abusers being gaslighting the police. It's a whole thing is just like it's crazy. I mean, it's like a freaking Lifetime movie.
Wow. It's certainly a grabby story.
Yes.
Very grabbing.
And so that's why it's probably one of my faves, a contender I didn't see coming.
Wow. Good job, Christine.
Well, thank you so much. I'm glad we got through another disturbing tale.
I know. Well, luckily the thunderstorm was able to keep us from having to discuss horrible things last time, but
for
we're back
one more
on it.
day. Yeah, we're going to keep doing it. We're always brought back.
Do you have any more storms coming up? So
actually, like today. And so I was actually going to mention that at the beginning is that like I got an alert from our security system being like, there is a severe thunderstorm warning in your area.
Your security system tells you the weather?
Well, no, but I think it's because like people keep losing power, so they were like just to be prepared in case your power goes out again. And I was like, no, of all days. So yeah, I guess we should probably wrap this bad boy up and do a little Patreon aftermath so that when the lights go out, it can be a Patreon exclusive.
In case your Zoom shuts down or something. Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah, because the Wi-Fi goes down when the internet goes down. Oh gosh.
So we gotta hustle. Okay,
hustle and bustle.
We gotta boogie. And
that's
why
we
drink.